We got some new Borderlands 3 DLC 2 gameplay of the early part of the DLC, and also of 8 new legendary weapons that were all shown in footage from Arekkz Gaming. We were also invited by 2K to check the DLC out, but that was sadly cancelled due to what is going on in the world. But Arekkz was kind enough to let me use his footage, and I will be going over all of it, and also over the footage from 269, who is also part of the Arekkz Gaming team. You can find links to their videos in the video description, so check them out if you want to see them. For now, let's analyze everything in this video. Of course, a like would be super appreciated, and let's go. Arekkz was able to capture the DLC in 4-player co-op, and all the characters had the new hats on that we will likely be able to earn in this expansion. We of course also saw some new hats in the Handsome Jackpot, and we could earn them via drops. So we already knew about the hat from Fleek, the least exciting one of the bunch in my opinion, although I do know that some people actually like it, and in the game it looks better than in the screenshot we had earlier. I don't know, I prefer Fleek with an actual face instead of this glowing hat. We already knew the Sane hat thanks to another screenshot that was already released, and in the game it looks pretty awesome too. But my favorite is the new Moze hat that has this angler fish kind of hat. Although maybe it's more like a monster, but it still has this light, and I really like that. We can also have a better look at this hat in the new screenshot that Gearbox also released. And Amara players, well, you get this octopus on your hat. Enjoy. I'm curious to hear what you think of these new hats in the comments down below. I think they are more fun than the ones we saw in the Handsome Jackpot DLC. So far, I'm really liking the areas that were shown in the new footage. It starts out in this frozen wasteland where we fight the new wolven enemies. Just some hounds that will be attacking you. I'm more intrigued by the Curge enemies that seem to come out of this dirty blob kind of thing, and also can sometimes explode after you take them out. And there's also this shock variant that has this very cool shock circle around them that we likely want to avoid. So I always like it when new enemies introduce some new things that we have to look out for. So we already have multiple new enemies in the first 10 minutes of this DLC in a snowy area, so that's a great change of pace. But then a few moments later we will actually go to a completely different area, Curse Haven. And this village looks especially awesome, giving me some sort of Bloodborne horror vibes. Both are of course inspired by Lovecraft, the American writer, and the music and the sound in this area really sets the tone. There will be some new chests to find as well, although they seem to be just regular chests, but they do have this cool new opening animation, always fun to see that. And you already see Arekkz use some of the new legendaries, like the new Unflappable Mutant, Jacob's assault rifle that has this laser when you shoot it, and you of course still have the Jacob's effect with the bullets flying to other enemies. It doesn't consume ammo that fast and seems to have a pretty good magazine size, the one that Arekkz got, 39. Normally I have a feeling that you have to reload these Jacob's assault rifles way too often, so seems like a great gun. I cannot wait to get it on my own character. And there will be way more Jacob's legendaries in this DLC, and that of course makes sense because it's all about the wedding of Hammerlock and Wainwright Jacobs. Good news because the Skull Masher is returning. Yes, that Jacob's sniper that functions as a shotgun and is actually comparable with the guns like the Maggie and other Masher pistols. So it was already great in Borderlands 2, but now in Borderlands 3 the bullets can of course ricochet to other targets if you score a crit. So this weapon should be even more powerful now, especially with the flag fade away ability, where of course everything is a crit, so I can't wait to try this out. And looking at the item card, we got 5 projectiles, a really sick rate of fire, and a magazine size of 6 on this drop, so great stuff. Another new Jacob's sniper is called a Cocky Bastard and can be found in this DLC as well. Love the magazine size of 8, although Arekkz wasn't able to find what the weapon actually did, and it's not very clear like looking at the item card and the gameplay. It does seem like a pretty strong sniper though, especially because you don't have to reload after each shot. We also got some Tedior love with a shotgun called Anarchy, a nod to Gage of course, who returns in this DLC and will be fighting alongside you. And we actually got a look at that trap as well in Borderlands 3. Miss you, buddy. So going back to this shotgun, because maybe you remember the anarchy stacks that Gage had in Borderlands 2, well, this kind of returns on this weapon, as the item card notes, every automatic reload or kill grants 30% damage and reduces accuracy, something that can stack 10 times, so that is really huge. And of course, on top of that, you have the cool TDR reload that can also deal extra damage when building up these stacks. And I really like the design of the weapon as well. We also got a new Hyperion Smg that switches elements on a reload, so that's pretty interesting. We got the item card here with corrosive, but we see it in action with incendiary damage, and now after the reload it seems to go to cryo damage. So yes, a fun weapon, just not very reliable in combat, especially on a higher mayhem mode, where you actually really have to make sure that you use the right element against the right enemy. But yeah, we'll of course have to use this one myself, but so far I think it's just a fun gimmick, but not actually useful. It does have reduced elemental damage by 20% when holding your shield though, so that's a nice extra. Before we look at some more weapons, I also want to touch on a class mod that we see in the footage from 269. Gearbox already teased that we would have super powerful class mods in this second expansion, and this new one is all about lifesteal, where Moze can gain up to 12% lifesteal the longer she holds the fire button. And thanks to the skills from Moze, you can of course hold that fire button for a very long time and get ammo back in the process, but then you're still maxed out at 12%, it seems like, which is not really that much. Although I really have to see it in action, of course, myself first. We got another TDR shotgun that looks pretty awesome, the Flama Diddle, and I hope I pronounced that right. And on reload, you throw something that homes in on the target and does some pretty nice damage. It has 9 projectiles per shot, so it seems to be like another pretty fun gun. And before we look at my favorite new weapon from the DLC, at least I think it will be, let's first take a look at a new Molly 1 shotgun called the Quicksilver Insider. It can switch between 2 elements, as we see with more Molly 1 weapons, but it's still unclear what the special effect actually is. Maybe bullets go to other targets, or you have an increased damage after doing something. I mean, we will find out soon enough when we can get our hands on it ourselves. I really love COV weapons, but I think you agree that while the pistols are pretty powerful, the assault rifles are never really that strong, at least not the legendary ones. Well, that seems to change with this DLC. We namely got the Serial Killer, basically serial killer, and the weapon effect is in line with that, as we see on the item card. Namely, killing an enemy grants increased damage, fire rate, and reduces the heat shot cost, and this effect stacks up 3 times. So normally you have to keep your finger off the trigger when you almost overheat, but now you can just hold the trigger if you keep killing enemies. So that is pretty cool. I really can't wait to get this one too. So yes, I like what I'm seeing so far. I just hope that those are not all the legendary weapons, because I always like it if there are some surprises left as well. 269 was also able to showcase the Old God Shield. The end comes from within with a booster, but no idea what the shield actually does. Of course, if you have any input, let me know in the comments down below. Also, I want to know your favorite new weapon of the bunch. Drop it down below. There is a new Borderlands show coming on March 24th, as you see thanks to this tweet from Mental Mars, and we'll be covering of course everything, so keep it locked for that. Subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, and I also asked Dennis what his favorite new weapon from the DLC was. So let's ask him that right now, and we of course always like to talk at the end of a Borderlands 3 video. Yo Dennis, favorite weapon of this new DLC? I'm curious.
From the ones we've seen so far, I'd have to go with the Anarchy. I like that they sort of brought Gage's skill back, and it works really well with the personal space skill on Amara. Gives me more damage when I'm closer to enemies, and I need to be close with low accuracy. So yeah, I hope it's going to be a cool shotgun to use, definitely.
I think they do look very cool, the shotguns that they've shown so far.
Yeah, I agree.
In the meantime, I've been doing some blackjack stuff, and I'm at 14. Huh?
We can do better. You can do better than that.
Damn it.
Oh, apparently not. Okay. So that's stuck at a 14?
Yeah, that will be very easy to beat for you.
Well, don't speak yet. It might go terrible.
Okay, Dennis, 14. Beat me to it.
I think I can, but
Oh!
okay, that's a bad start. That's a bad start. Okay.
Oh!
Wow. Okay, 18. So I still win and get absolutely nothing.
That was close though. Yeah, that's as always. We will be watching the new Borderlands show that will air next week, and of course bring you all the news and also be all over the new DLC. So totally subscribe if you haven't already for way more Borderlands 3 coverage. Like the video to support the channel, and check out our previous video on some new buffs that Gearbox recently introduced. For now though, we will speak to you next time, and goodbye.